Thank you, sir.
This meeting is being recorded.
Permit me to read the profile of Dupe Akinsiun.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. Dupe is a seasoned HR professional with 15 years of progressive experience across multiple industries in Africa, North America, and Europe. She is an alumnus of PricewaterhouseCoopers and other top multinational organizations like AstraZeneca, Coca-Cola, Hellenic Bottling Company, and Solvay. She holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, and an executive diploma certificate on inclusive leadership from Igade Business School. She is an official member of Coaches Council, and she's a certified professional by leading HR institutes in North America, as well as a member of the John Maxwell leadership team. She is a certified mixed behavior consultant and a design thinking practitioner. She is also a member of the Institute of Directors, UK, and a member of the European Mentors and Coaches Council. Dupe has worked with organizations across diverse sectors in order to training and coaching to business leaders to drive team and organizational objectives. Some of our sessions include strategy sessions, leadership development, team effectiveness workshop, cultural transformation. She has delivered leadership training sessions to management teams of water corporations across different geopolitical zones. She was done as part of Coca-Cola Company. She was done as part of Coca-Cola Company's commitment to water stewardship. She is a 2018 mentor of Queen's Young Leaders across the Commonwealth nations, a 2020 Leading Ladies Africa Top 50 Corporate Ladies in Nigeria. She was named one of the top HR influencers in Nigeria, top 10 LinkedIn personalities, a premier content creator, leadership category by the Revenue Leaders Award. She was recently recognized as a Leader of the Year by the Iconic Brands Award and also gave a Global Women's Award in the leadership category. She is the host of the Kiara Mentoring Bootcamp, where she has helped working professionals build professional credibility and confidence that has helped to attract and win opportunities for increased impact and income. Distinguished engineers, ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I welcome Dupe Akinsiun as she makes her presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Engineer Adegoke. And good evening, distinguished engineers. I wish I could refer to myself as an engineer, but I think once an engineer, always an engineer, right?
Definitely.
So I'm in the right company. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really want to find out how your day has been. I'll be happy if I can, see a few comments in the chat box. Just tell us on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the highest. How good has your day been? So I want you to leave a comment in the chat box. I want to hear from you how your day has been. Anybody? On a quick scale of 1 to 10, how has your day been? Where 10 is the highest? I see 7. Oh, Jim, I see 8. Okay, 8. Okay. The average is still about 7 point something. I say 6. Wow. Wow. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. So what do we expect, to make it go to 10 or to 9 or to 8 or to 7? What would you like to see that will help you take it further? I hope this session will be part of it.
Definitely.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm really so honored and excited to be here. I'll be projecting my screen, and please let me know once you can see my screen.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, Justice should be on slideshow. Okay. I think it's taking some time to load so that we can start moving. So please pardon me as we go along. I'm just recovering from the flu, and I did not want to postpone this session. So I will try and speak loud, but I hope you can hear me clearly. Is that good?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. So today we're going to be talking about effective leadership skills for managers in engineering environment. Now, one thing I want to buttress, I think you're the chairman, sir. I didn't get your name at the start of it.
Yes, I'm the chairman, Engineer Mecca eBay.
Engineer Mecca, nice to meet you, sir. So Engineer eBay, emphasize the fact that what we're about to learn today is not restricted to the engineering environment alone. Leadership is a skill that is generic. It has no gender to it. It has no profession to it. It has no race to it. It has nothing to it. It is generic. So I want you to know that what we're going to be sharing today applies to our jobs and applies to even other aspects of our lives. So please come with an open mind. There will be things you already know, right? There might be things that will be coming to you as reminders, and there might be something new that you will learn today. But what I want us to realize is leadership is also a broad topic. We cannot finish it within the time that we have. But I'm trusting that this session will be like a reminder or a refresher for some people in order to go back again to some basic principles that we know and put them to use at work and even in our personal lives, okay? So we'll be talking about, looking at the agenda. These are the main things we're going to be looking at today. What exactly is the difference between leadership and management? What are the qualities of a great leader? What challenges do we face as leaders, or what are some of the challenges, leadership challenges in an engineering environment? And what is the impact of effective leadership, in our industry or in our profession or in our organization? So these are some of the things we're going to be doing or talking about. Now, before I go into my presentation, I will share with you a little bit about myself and how I landed in the human resources space. I studied chemical engineering, like my profile said. I remember my choice for engineering was not because somebody forced it on me. No. When I was younger, my aspiration was to be the first female gas engineer in sub-Saharan Africa. Why gas engineering? All right. I remember, I think it was one of our geography lessons back in the days. And the teacher talked about the ozone layer depletion and how the chlorofluorocarbon emission is depleting, the stratosphere. So I got curious. Please, can we mute if you're not speaking? So I got curious, about the ozone layer depletion, the greenhouse and all that. And I said, I want to be a part of that solution. And so I recall that the option for me available was to pursue chemical engineering. And so I started. But I started to realize that beyond the course I was studying, there was something else I observed about myself. I noticed my passion for people. I noticed my ability to connect with people. And so I started to pay attention to that part of me. And at some point, really, I thought I was going to switch to psychology, you know, but that didn't work out. So I progressed till I got to the final year. And then in my environmental engineering class, that was when I saw that I needed to make a shift to human resources. You know, the Bhopal tragedy. How many people remember the Bhopal tragedy in India in, I think, 1985, the Bhopal tragedy? It was one of the major chemical explosions in history. Bhopal is Bhopal. So maybe it wasn't, you know, maybe it's one of the things we studied in our schools or we already know about it. But for me, that was the only time, that was my first time and the only time I heard about Bhopal. And then there was also the Chernobyl Ukraine explosion. And I looked at these two case studies and I realized that the underlying principle on the underlying compromise in each of these major incidents were lack of effective leadership. People management went wrong. If I cite the example of Bhopal tragedy, we talk about the acquisition of the chemical plants in India at the time and how a lot of things were not put into consideration. A lot of the manuals, the operating manuals were written in English, and we had Indian locals operating the machines. People did not have adequate training as they should. There was no proper handing over process. There was no effective people management procedures and all of that, such that people started to leave. I remember that after the acquisition happened, there were a lot of mismanagement, misappropriation of things. And so people started to leave because the environment was no longer conducive. Employee attrition became high, such that by the time the explosion happened, they did not have capable hands on ground to mitigate the risk, to manage the damage that had been done. And so it became catastrophic. And so I started to reflect as a person. It was an awakening for me. And that's because I know that as engineers, we are brilliant people. There's no doubt about it. We have very high IQs. We have strong intellectual capacity and many more. A lot of the engineering, you know, organizations that we see, whether locally or globally, they always hire the brightest and the best students. Do you see what I mean? But the question is, how do good people go wrong? How do very bright students produce suboptimal outcomes? Why should we have such, you know, brilliant people coming up with suboptimal designs in our whether labs or in our, you know, it became a real question for me. And I saw that there was a missing link. And I remember I said, you know what, I'm going to figure it out. So today I try to call myself a people engineer. So my colleagues in chemical, I know you are process engineers and whatnot. I am your people engineer. And so today I'm always so excited to talk about people management. I'm always so excited to talk about leadership. So we're going to start with even helping us to understand what is the main difference between leadership and management. Now I'm going to show you this screen and let me know, what do you see on this screen when you see it? What comes to mind? Can you recognize some or all of the people on this screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
So can you tell me, who do you think is a manager? Who do you think is a leader on this screen?
Barack Obama, Nelson Mandela is a leader.
Okay. Somebody else? Okay, you're still talking.
Emefiele is a manager.
Okay. You will tell us your reasons. So you've given us two. Why do you think one is a leader and the other one is a manager? Tell us.
Okay, as a matter of fact, today, this is the second time I'll be discussing Nelson Mandela today.
Wow.
And yeah, earlier on we discussed about how he forgave all those that put him in prison. And when he became president, he carried everyone along, the whites and the blacks.
Mm.
So that makes him that's a good leadership trait.
Okay.
For Emefiele, our CBN governor, well, I see him as a manager because he didn't take into consideration a lot of factors when he proposed the currency. He proposed and implemented the currency change because a lot of people are facing difficulties in buying things. They don't have cash, and they've gone through a lot of hard times as a result of this policy. So it didn't really take the people's, how they would feel into consideration.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Who else? I mean, if you're not open to opening up your mind to speak, you can leave your reflections in the chat box. Let's know what you think. Who do you think is a leader? And I will respond to what you said. Who is a leader? Who do you think is a leader? Who do you think is a manager? Anybody else? Thank you so much, Engineer Dekoke, for sharing. Who else wants to share?
My name is John Weke. So on Emefiele, what I think is not really about not caring about how people will feel or not empathizing with people. Is just about not making people fall in love with you to be able to work with you. So if they're suffering, they don't see you suffering with them. If you give instruction and people don't think, they don't buy into your idea of whatever you want to do, because whatever he proposed is a good, all of us agreed is a good thing. But the problem is that the implementation, the process. But the thing is that in another way, it could have been an example, Obama proposing this, but people will work with you. This suffering, we will not be shouting about it the way we are shouting about it today. But because people, people are not in tune or in love with him to work with him to achieve his vision. So that is the area where I see managers propose things and they don't achieve it. Eventually they will, but with difficulties, and with all the bad names that will follow. Just because people didn't actually buy into, they might buy into it, but they're not willing to sacrifice, to work with you to achieve that.
Wow, I like that. I like that. Thanks so much for sharing, John. Okay, so you both have shared very powerful insights about your perception of these individuals in a managerial capacity and in a leadership capacity. Someone like Obama, as an example, he was the president of the United States, AKA POTUS. He was POTUS. So in that office as POTUS, he was a manager. He was responsible for administrating the government of the United States. Now, his tenure has ended, but yet Obama has maintained a name for himself as someone of influence, such that without the title of the President of the United States, he still has the buy-in of majority of the people. People still willingly follow Obama. Now, if I flip to Mandela, Mandela was not the president of South Africa when he started to fight against apartheid. He did not have an office, but he became a leader because of certain attributes. He saw a South Africa that was free of apartheid. He saw a country that was free of racism, of discrimination, of unfair treatment. And he was willing and ready to give whatever it took to go all the way to sacrifice to ensure the freedom. Eventually, he became the president, but he was way earlier seen as a leader of the people before he even became the president. Now, Liz Truss is an example of a manager too. She was the prime minister, the shortest prime minister in the history of the United Kingdom. Now, she has gone back to wherever she came from, and it was as if, or it is as if, she never even was in office. Why? Because outside of that office, the question is, who is she? So when you look at the concept of leadership versus management, the concept of management is tied to an office. You only become a manager because you get appointed into an office. So whether by reason of your job title, you're an HR manager, you are an operations manager, you are a plant manager, you are a production manager or facilities manager or any of those titles, you become a manager by appointment. But you become a leader by your attributes, by your choice. So the management side of things, you only get into it because you are assigned to it or appointed to it. But leadership, you do not need a title to become a leader. Do you see what I mean? Managers require titles to become managers. But a leader requires no title to be a leader because you can lead from anywhere. You don't need an office to become a leader. So when we talk about, I know a lot of times people say, no, I don't want to be a manager. I want to be a leader. No, a manager is not necessarily a bad thing. Everybody wants to aspire. If you were once a supervisor, one day you want to be promoted into management. So it's okay to get into management. But what we are saying is, as engineering managers, as project managers, as people managers, we need to develop our leadership skills so that when you are even out of that office, you still have the influence that you command as an individual. So like Obama, if you step out of office, are you still able to carry people? Are you still able to get the buy-in of people as an individual? That's a question you want to reflect on. Otherwise, you need to recognize that there is something called, if I use the US as an example, the POTUS, President of the United. There are over 50 POTUS that have existed. But the United States can count how many leaders that they recognize. Martin Luther King was never a president, but he was considered and is still considered a leader in the history of the US. The question is, if we look at your organization today, are you going to be seen as a leader of people or just as a manager only? A manager plans, a manager maintains policies, a manager maintains status quo, approves processes, reviews processes and whatnot. But a leader is someone who doesn't just work with policies, but is even able to challenge policies. A leader is someone who is able to challenge status quo, who is able to cast a vision that will positively impact on people. So these are some of the things we should consider when we think of leadership and management. So if you have any question or comment, you can put it in the chat box. So as we progress, we'll take notes of them. Now, what are some of the qualities of great leaders? And I will ask you to share one or two that you're aware of. So looking at those, at those individuals we saw, what are some of the qualities that come to mind for you, that great leaders have? Anybody wants to share? My engineers.
Okay, empathy. I would say empathy.
Okay, empathy.
And also discipline. Yeah, those are some very key attributes.
Empathy, discipline. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I think for a leader, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. For a leader, there should be consistency in following a course. Like for
are you still there? Did we lose the volume?
Mandela, there was a time.
The line is breaking.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, yes.
One of them, I think, is confidence. You should be confident for people to follow you. I mean, as good as your vision or whatever whatever thing you are trying to propel is, you should be confident for people to stay with you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing.
Even though we may still want to negotiate that particular component, the major component we have a problem with. Just hear me out now.
Okay, please, can you help me mute now? Okay. John, I think you wanted to say something. You will.
Yeah, sir. For me, I think a good leader should be able to thrive even in that. Even in a situation where things are not okay, even where things are not going well, being able to grow and flourish in this situation makes you a good leader. It's not a question of trashing out debts or removing things that are not okay, but being able to thrive and flourish in every situation it makes a good leader, because it means that, like, converting debt to manure. That's what I want to say.
I like that. I like that. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Maybe I should say that, I mean, I will add on top of what you said that a leader is resourceful, because if you're able to see manure, from an otherwise waste, it means you're resourceful. That's good. So these are some of the qualities, and I will start with one. It's the ability to have a vision. A leader is someone who is visionary, someone who has a destination in mind. A leader is not someone who wakes up wondering what today will hold, wondering what we are going to do as a team, wondering where we are going, where are we headed. A leader needs to be able to have a mental picture of the future destination he or she is taking the team to. A leader should be visionary. So when we look at someone like, the previous slide we saw, we talked about Nelson Mandela. He had a vision. He had a destination in mind. He didn't know how long it would take for apartheid to stop, but his vision was, I will see the end of this thing. I must see the end of this thing. Martin Luther King was another visionary. He said, I have a dream that one day, it won't matter the color of your skin anymore, but I see the black and every other race, being equally treated. Now, whether that has been fully realized is not the case, but he had a vision. If we look into our community, in Nigeria, as precisely, who else do we think has a vision like that? Who else do we think has a vision in Nigeria, for Nigeria?
Toby.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know. Peter Obi is campaigning. I don't know what he has done without the campaign. Do you see what I mean? I'm talking about people who are not using title. Peter Obi is looking for a title. He's telling us what he wants to do when he gets into office. The question is, what has he done for Nigeria before getting into office? I don't know. I mean, I just use that. I mean, I'm not talking about from a political perspective. I'm just saying in the context of what we are saying, that a leader is not someone who waits to get into office to get something done. You see what I mean? But I get what you mean. He has communicated a vision. Let's wait as he will get us there now. But looking at the past, maybe in Nnamdi Azikiwe, these were our old patriarchs. People like Tafawa Balewa, people like Obafemi Awolowo. It's interesting that when we still talk about leaders in Nigeria, we still go back to these same old people. The question is, where are the other leaders? I don't even, we need more leaders to rise. We need more leaders to rise. Someone like Dora Akunyili, oh my goodness. You could see that she saw a Nigeria that will be free from fake drugs. If there's anything anybody remembers Dora for, it's a war against fake drugs. She had a vision and she went after that vision. So as a leader, your team must be clear on where you're taking them to. Where do you see your team in the next 1 year? Where do you see your team in the next 3 years? Where do you see your team in the next 5 years? What achievements do you want to have recorded for your team, for your organization? What would you have accomplished for your team, for your organization? That is your vision. If you don't have one documented today, step back after this meeting and reflect. What is the vision for my team? Where do I see us in the next 1, 3, 5 years? Put it down, okay? Another quality is the ability to communicate. Great leaders are effective communicators, because there is no way you can land a vision or mobilize people to achieve anything if you're not able to communicate effectively. Communication is not your ability to speak English. Communication is not your ability to use jargons, engineering jargons. Communication is only achieved when understanding is established. So whether you speak in your native language, whether you speak in any other language or in sign language, as long as the recipient of that information is on the same page as you are, then you cannot say communication has taken place. A lot of people speak, but very few people communicate. A lot of people talk, but very few people pass understanding. Sometimes some managers get into meetings. These are the things we are doing. They list 10 things they want to do. They leave that place. Very few people understand what they have said or what has been said. Or very few people, a lot of people live with different interpretations of what has been said. Then you wonder why people are not achieving results. See, we all can speak English language, but our interpretation of what we hear is so different. Our interpretation of what we hear is so different. So before you disconnect, before you assume that what you have said has been understood, you always need to clarify. And how do you clarify? As a leader of people, you need to always ask for feedback. So if you have spoken and you say, you know, can somebody quickly summarize what we just said? It helps you to gauge the level of understanding in the room. It helps you to establish if they understood, and so you can clarify and establish understanding. So communication, it's not enough that you have mighty dream. You must be able to communicate it. Till tomorrow, people are still listening to the speech of Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Why? Because that speech was so powerful. It wasn't so much about the speech, it was the ability to use that speech to convey a meaning to the people that resonated so well with them. So as a leader, learn to improve your communication, okay? Another quality is your ability to connect with people. Oh goodness. See, connecting is a great skill or quality that you should have as a leader. Being able to bring things and people together. You know, John Maxwell said something. He said, leaders will always touch a heart before they ask for a hand. Excuse me. You must be able to connect with people. Connect with people. How do you connect with people? You must be able to spend time with people. Oh, wow. Somebody is in a meeting. Oh, God. Somebody is in a relationship mood. Somebody is in a love mood tonight. Okay. So we need to be able to connect with people as individuals and as teams. Some managers, they are so good at organizing meetings. Team meeting. We meet every week. We meet every day. But you don't have one-on-one with your people. They said, have you met with your team? You say, yes, I had a meeting with them last week. I had a meeting with them earlier this week. It's not enough. That's not where connection happens. For those of us here, maybe you're married or you've been in a relationship before, you're in a relationship. You will understand that being with somebody you are in a relationship with, there's a difference between how you relate one-on-one and how you relate when you're in the midst of people. When you're one-on-one, there's more focus, there's increased awareness and attention in a way that brings about understanding, in a way that builds the connection that is required for you to go ahead in your journey. If you don't spend time with your team members, my people, there's no way you can effectively lead them. Because in spending time with people, you get to know their passion, you get to know their potentials, you get to know their pains, you get to know their aspirations, you get to hear feedback from them. Because if as a leader, you are disconnected from your team, there's no way you can carry them to your desired destination. Even if you try, it's going to be a lot of work. Like Emefiele, John was explaining to us, Emefiele doesn't have that strong buy-in from people because he's not connected with the realities of his people. You need to be able to connect with people. Now, let me tell you something as a leader. Your greatest responsibility is not to get the job done by yourself. Your greatest responsibility is to build people who will get the job done. A lot of times I see leaders, and using my experience in the manufacturing sector, I see a lot of my engineering managers not being able to down the tools. They are not able to, you've been promoted from being an individual, contributor to becoming a people manager, but you are still doing the job. Give time to people, spend time with them, develop them, but you can't develop them if you don't connect with them. It's like, once you become a leader of people, you're like a parent. You have become like a parent. As a parent, you spend time with your children. Someone said that for children, love is not spelled money. Love is spelled time. Love is spelled time. If you want to show people in your team that they are important and they matter, please organize sessions with them. Even if it is 15 minutes every week, invite them to book a one-on-one session on your calendar. Just ask them how they are doing. Ask them how they are faring. Ask them how their goals are. Don't wait till performance appraisal time to check on them. It is too late. As a leader, you should be agile, all right, in your leadership. So check in on people, check in with people at least once every week. Know how people are doing. Feel their pulse. Listen to them. Connect with them. We really can't spend too much time on that, but it's so important. And the reason is because you cannot ask for their hand if you have not connected with their heart. When you connect with their heart, they willingly give you their hand. I've already touched on a little bit that one of the qualities of great leaders is that they nurture talent. Gosh, engineers are brilliant people. I said it earlier, we have high IQs. We know book. Laplace, all those, we know book. We are brilliant. Give it to us. But we shouldn't stop at knowing book. And we shouldn't know book for the purpose of, you want to be seen as an authority. Because this is our title, engineering. This engineer something, engineer that. Sometimes for some people, because it was hard-earned, you worked for it. Sometimes for some people, it pops them up. They need to know I sabi. People supposed to know, say, I know book. So when you show up with your team, you want to show them how brilliant you are. You want to show them how much they should respect you or defer to you because of your years of experience or your skills. But guess what? People don't follow you based on your knowledge. If that was the case, then their lecturer back in school should be their leaders. People don't respect you because of what you know. You need to be able to use what you know to train other people. Be a mentor to them. Be a coach to them. Be a tutor to them. It is not, you can't be dragging shine with your subordinates. No, we already know you know it. That's why you finished before us. We already know you're our senior colleague. Don't drag work. I see and I hear from sometimes subordinates at work. They say they come up with recommendations to some of their leaders. Their leaders go with those recommendations and shine off their subordinates. It baffles me. Recommendations coming from subordinate is what you as a leader, you are using to shine. Is it that bad? You know, but elevate, use your office to elevate people. Mentor them, identify trainings for them, send them on trainings. Let them even, in some cases, come back to the team and share knowledge. Let it not be only you, Sabi, because we know that you are not the only one that knows. So as a leader, develop people. Not only do you develop people, give constructive and timely feedback to them. Don't wait till appraisals, like I said. Give constructive feedback. Constructive feedback is not, you know, you are not performing well. You know the way I'm looking at you. This is your appraiser. We already know how it's going to go. You already know you're already falling behind. That's not constructive. That can be the authentic thing, but that's not constructive. Constructive feedback is sitting down with someone to say, you remember the analysis I gave you last week that I told you to pull the report from the system and come up with a graph showing us our production capacity in the lab so that we are able to detect where we are falling short in order to improve. That presentation, I noticed that you did a shoddy job. You did not extract all the information as you should have. And so you came using incomplete data that did not help us to have a true picture of the trend analysis of our production. And as a result of that, we haven't been able to detect where the problem is, so we can't move forward with our production, innovation, or improvement. That is a constructive feedback. A constructive feedback uses a situation plus behavior to describe an impact on an outcome. Don't pull people down in the name of feedback. You know your head is not correct. You know the way I'm looking at you. This is your degree, I can question it. That is not feedback, that is an insult. An insult will not get your people to be at their best. Give constructive feedback in a timely manner. Don't give them during appraisal when they can do nothing about it. All right? Give it timely. Then, of course, as a leader, you need to be able to collaborate. As a leader, you need to be able to collaborate. What do I mean by that? Don't say, now this is where we are going. Oh yeah, everybody starts going, and then you stay back. I'm watching you. You know, the two of you, I see you are sluggish. You are not moving at the rate, at the same pace as the others. I have my eyes on you. Meanwhile, you are sitting down. No, as a leader, you go with them. Oh, wow, we just launched this equipment. We need to begin production. Now, get on the production floor. Identify what is going on. See that everything is in order. Then you can go back. You cannot coordinate people from the back stand. John Maxwell will say that a leader does not only show the way, a leader also goes the way. You must be able to go the way with your people. Collaborate with them. Ask them to brainstorm. Guys, we have a challenge with our production or whatever it is, or this design is not coming out as it should, or there's a flaw with our design. We need to be able to address this. Now, everybody, let's brainstorm together. What ideas do we have? It's not the time, it's not every time you say, I will tell people what to do. When are you going to stop telling them what to do? Let people also exercise their creativity. Let your team members also exercise their intelligence. Let them exercise teamwork and let them bring ideas to the table. Guide them, coach them in coming up with the best decision for the team and let them feel like a part of a solution. Not that every time you say, we didn't do well last week, this is what we are going to do this week, and then you tell them. No, it shouldn't be. Work with them, all right? And another thing is, as a leader, excuse me, you should have a growth mindset. You should be willing to learn, improve on your knowledge. A lot of principles have improved or have advanced. Of course, we know that. The engineering environment is advancing with technology every day. Processes sometimes can be outdated if we're not careful. So we need to be, very, very agile with learning as leaders. We need to be very agile because the industry is dynamic because of technology disruption. So keep learning. Learn about technology, but learn about people too. Learn about your industry, learn about products. Learn and keep learning. Don't be closed and be open to feedback. As a leader, you're not the only one to give feedback. You also must be open to receiving feedback from your team. Then another quality is you need to be inclusive. There's a tendency to, because the engineering community, we already have shortage of women in engineering. So there's a tendency for women to feel excluded, or there's a tendency for us to not think in an equitable way that will show that we recognize the fact that we have women, in our midst. We need to start, challenging some stereotypes, some of our designs. I mean, I worked with Solvay, and one of the things we started to look at is, how do we design the plant of the future? How do we ensure that, some of the processes that we have in some of our production that requires heavy lifting, they are more, they are improved upon so that even women can be part of those. So we don't say, as a woman can't do heavy lifting. But does it have to be heavy? Does it have to be difficult? How do we work on that process to be a bit more inclusive so that anyone, irrespective of ability status, irrespective of gender, can be a part of it? These are ways leaders think in order to challenge status quo, in order to be able to bring up innovation, and improvement. A manager is the one who's, this is how we, sometimes managers maintain protocols, managers maintain processes. This is how we've done it. This is how you should learn to do it. Oh, wow, we need to, you need to start challenging, how can we do it better? How do we ensure that more people, are able to participate in this? Of course, these are not the only qualities. We've mentioned a lot. We said confidence. We talked about, being able, I think it was resilience. John said earlier, being able to, be resourceful, problem solving as a leader. There are lots of qualities, but these were the ones I felt I should call out, immediately. Excuse me. Now, what are some of the challenges that we're experiencing in engineering environments and even generally, leadership? Lack of inclusion.
Sorry for the interjection, Dupe. We would appreciate if you can round off in the next 5 minutes so that we can have about 7 to 8 minutes for questions and
that's answers. The target. That's the target. Mm-hmm. So these are some of the challenges. Thank you for that. These are some of the challenges that we are facing. And the first one is lack of inclusion, right? Lack of inclusion. Now, when we talk about inclusion, it's not just about gender. In our case, it can be tribal, it can be tribes or ethnic, tribalistic, it can be gender, it can be personality, it can be all of those. We need to ensure that every stakeholder is included in the decision making. If you're going to make a decision as a leader, ask yourself, the people that are going to be impacted by this decision we're about to make, have we included them to get their feedback, their input? Have we included all our stakeholders, in making this decision? Of course, because of the limitation in terms of female representation and, on a wider scale, there's a tendency for heavy stereotypes. There are a lot of assumptions, in decision making because we have always worked in a certain way. So we need to challenge some of our stereotypes. We need to challenge some of our principles and theories, in how we've always done things. Somebody mentioned empathy as a quality of a leader. But we'll find out that within the engineering environment, because a lot of engineers, and I say a lot, and I'm trying not to be stereotypical, we need to demonstrate more empathy because we work a lot with machines. And this was my statement when I was going to make a switch. I said, I don't want to just work with machines. I want to work with people. We need to think of people as people. Machines don't exist on their own. Men or man operates machines. So both the machine, the man is even more important than the machine. So we need to come out of our machine theories and begin to pay more attention to people. So there's a tendency to maintain a high focus on process, a high tendency to maintain focus on product, on project, and very minimal focus on people. We're so spot on when it comes to our maintenance schedule. But when it comes to training of people, do we pull people out of trainings so that they can come to production floor? Do we pull people out of their leave so that they can come back to the office and do work? You know, how do you strike the right balance between your focus on processes, on machines, and your focus on people? So as leaders, these are some of the challenges we face. Then sometimes because of lack of empathy, we also experience low emotional intelligence. A lot of times women have been demanded to start acting like men, you know, because you know you're in a man's world, so you have to act like a man. We train people to deny their emotions. We train people to become who they are not, just because they're in a field of engineering. Engineering is a profession that has no gender to it. We may have had male-dominated profession for a long time, but there's an increased interest, you know, in bringing more women. So we need to be more emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent. Then also because of our tendency, our brilliance, our high intellectual capacity, there's a tendency to have a lot of competition rather than collaboration. So the tendency to work in silos, whether as individuals or as teams, is there. But it takes a great leader to be able to bring people together to collaborate. Competition is a great challenge. And when we compete like that, we're not able to synergize and create optimal outcomes. Knowledge, some people exalt knowledge over influence. They want to be seen as authorities, you know, and they compromise on their leadership skills. People don't respect you just because of what you know. They respect you because of your impact on their lives. Then there's also the tendency to be hierarchical. While hierarchy is not necessary, we need to understand that hierarchy is not necessarily synonymous to respect. We need to understand the difference. We may have flat structures and be very respectful, but we can have, you know, very gigantic hierarchies and we lack respect. So respect is reciprocal, but we need to understand that hierarchy in itself is not what bets results. So let's step out of our titles, let's step out of our, you know, all of those and relate with people. Become a personable person, be authentic and relatable as a leader. These are some of the challenges I've highlighted. But if we want to talk about the impact of effective leadership in our environment, it definitely helps to improve productivity. The more you work with people to build them, to build their skills, to connect with them, they are more engaged, their morale is high, they are productive, they make less errors. And of course, when we make less errors, it means we're not wasting resources. It means we're delivering outcome and we are profitable. So when you think of your process, think of profit. When you think of your process and your product, think of your people so that you can have profit. And so we have come to the end of the session. Do we have any questions?
Thank you very much. It has been an interesting session, and I'm sure that our members have learned a lot from this interesting presentation. So we will take a few questions or comments. We have a few minutes more. Does anyone have questions or comments? Okay, Engineer Rankins. Engineer Rankins, please.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much to the facilitator, the presenter for the presentation, actually. And my question is premised on the scenario that was played out when the lecture started, actually. So we had appointee Emefiele, and some political leaders, that's people who were elected into offices and all that. So the question is actually that, what do you do in scenarios and circumstances where your powers are very, very limited? Let's say you're an employee in a company and you are being made to, implement policies or things that may not favor people. What do you do in those kind of circumstance, in that kind of circumstance? Of course, which you know that if you do anything against what your bosses or the people who appointed you there, if you do anything against what they appointed you there for, they are going to, of course, fire you. So what do you do in those kind of circumstances? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to quickly give you an example. I once joined a company. I worked with AstraZeneca at some point, and I got into the organization, and there were certain things I observed. Now, as a company, they had hired a third party in Nigeria to handle their payroll. And so some of the statutory remittances were not being done. And I observed that, and because it's an offense, they were not aware because they didn't have full presence in Nigeria at the time. And so I had to bring it to the aware of my team. So the decision was we needed to comply. Now, what that meant was we're going to start taking statutory remittances from people, because if you were not paying pension before, now you have to start paying pension. And people had gotten accustomed to earning a certain salary at the end of the month. So if you're going to reduce that, it's going to be, everybody's going to tell you, no, I don't want it. Don't reduce my salary. Do you see what I mean? So it had extended for a while. So one of the things I realized is the impact of your action on the people. Now, putting yourself in the shoes of people, what do you expect? It is not my fault that pension was not being taken from me. So I expect my employer to take responsibility. Now, being a leader and not just an HR manager, I had to speak with the business. Now, if you don't remit pension for these people, one, it is a crime. You can be sanctioned by the government. Two, if you get sanctioned by the government, it is a reputational damage for you. So understand what this means if you're not doing it. Now, two, if you reduce people's salary and they are not excited, they will start leaving. So you will start losing people. Now, that is also not good for you. What I would suggest to you as an organization is bear the responsibility of this, at least to an extent. So what we're going to do is, I will propose that when we are doing our salary increments at the end of Q1, let us factor in a little bit of adjustment that will buffer the impact of these deductions. Do you understand what I mean? So I made that recommendation to the business, because as a leader, you need to be able to challenge status quo. As a leader, you need to be able to educate, and influence upwards. These are the things you need to be able to do. So I didn't just take orders from my leaders, I guided them. Based on my knowledge, I showed them the impact. A lot of times, people don't know how to communicate cost benefits. You need to be able to, as a leader, understand cost implications of decisions and be able to sell a business case to the leaders, to your leadership team. So having won the buy-in of my leaders, I needed to go and sell the idea to the people. Now, until you pay that salary into people's accounts, they don't understand the impact too. So one of the things I did with the people was, guys, there's a situation. You have not been paying pension. You should have. Now, we intend to do a deduction, but we will make adjustments in your salaries. But I also want to make it easy for you to pay. I will show you the amount you have owed over a period of time, but come and tell me how much time do you need to make this payment? So I won't deduct it at once. How do I make it comfortable for you to pay? So I created a payment plan. So you see, as a leader, you need to find innovative ways, creative ways to implement solutions. Do you see what I mean? So you don't just do things because you were told to do it. You are an individual, you are an intelligent person. Process what you have been asked to do. Is this the best thing to do? What is the impact on both ends for my stakeholders? Then come up with an argument or a business case and sell it to them. Are you with me?
Thank you very much, Dupe. Distinguished engineers, ladies and gentlemen, because of time, we may not be able to take any further questions. But if Dupe would permit me, I can share email address with you so that you can send your questions to her. And,
no, I will prefer my platform, my LinkedIn platform, so I don't
okay,
miss.
yeah. Okay. Okay,
can
we'll share that. And I'm also thinking that this is just session 1 of the presentation on leadership. We may have to bring you back to conclude this session. We may have to bring you back at a later
I'll
date.
be happy to come. Just tell the chairman that he will have my invoice shortly.
No problem. I'm sure we are capable.
I know engineers are very rich. I forgot to put that as a quality.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to hand over to my chairman, Engineer Emeka Ibe.
Thank you very much, Engineer Degoke, for anchoring this session. Can you please share the certificate of appreciation?
Okay.
Great. Once again, let me use this opportunity to say thank you to, and let me call you engineer today, whether you like it or not. Let me appreciate Engineer Dupe Akinsiun for doing justice to this very sensitive topic, effective leadership skills for managers in the engineering profession. To give us a proper vote of thanks and to present this certificate on behalf of the branch. Permit me to call one of our fellows in the house, Engineer Joan Nweke, Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, to please give us the vote of thanks and present this certificate of appreciation to Engineer Dupe.
Good evening, my chairman. So, Engineer Dupe, according to my chairman today, we want to thank you for all the knowledge you shared with us today. And I'm sure all the people online learned a lot from you on how to handle our businesses, how to handle people around us, knowing that it's not enough for us to want to be successful. Even if we agree on every other thing, we need our environment to agree with us. We need people to agree with us for us to achieve to achieve success in life. So what you've told us today, I'm sure all of us will implement in various ways, not only in our professional environments. When you started, you mentioned even families, even in our family homes, we have to implement what you've taught us today. So on behalf of the chairman of Victoria Island Branch, Nigeria Society of Engineers, and all members of the branch, we say a very big thank you, and we present to you this certificate of appreciation for sharing valuable knowledge on effective leadership skills for managers in engineering environment, which took place today on 17th of March, 2023 at NSCBI platform. Thank you so much, Ma. And like Engineer Bright or Adegoke said, this is 101 of this lecture. We expect to get 102 and the rest on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and I feel at home. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. So on that note, we have come to the end of this very interesting Young Engineers Seminar. Can a volunteer give us a closing prayer for us to conclude?
All right. Hello, good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Good evening.
Take the second stanza of our national prayer. So I put it on the chat above. At the go of 1, 2. God of creation,
Direct our noble cause. Guide our
guide our
leaders right.
leaders right. Help our
Help
youth
our
the
youth
truth
the
to
truth
know,
to know.
in
In
love and
love and
honesty
honesty.
to grow, and live
And
in just
live
and
just
true.
and true.
With
With
lofty
lofty
heights
heights
attain,
attain.
So
To
build
build
future,
a
fair,
nation
and
where
justice.
peace and
where
justice
peace
shall
and
reign.
peace shall reign.
Amen.
Amen.
Very much.
Amen. Thank you very everyone. Please activate your camera so that we can take a screenshot of our attendees. Please activate your camera if you can. Okay, you can unmute and share pleasantries.
Thank you, Engineer Dope. It's actually a very insightful lecture.
Thank you, Engineer John. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, People's Engineer Dupe.
Yes.
It was an interesting one, very interesting. We really
I will send you the slides shortly. So you can...
Okay. I will also send a soft copy of the certificate of appreciation to you.
Okay, no problem. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Have a good evening.
We will expect the presentation slide so that we can share it to our members.
Yes, I will share it once I get it.
Okay, great. Okay, goodbye. Good night, everyone. Stay safe during our election tomorrow.